Here's your heads up to this longer podcast. It's all about creating massive change using the filters that we've already got. And things like decisions, careers, changing jobs, attracting the right partner, having the best relationship with the relationship you're in already, having the best friends, or just getting on with the project. It's covered all here. I can't believe I covered all of this here. Have a listen. It'll be awesome.
Warning.
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 Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
I want to give you a couple of examples. A couple of examples of something that I believe that you like me, will have experienced in the past. Or one of them or some of them. Here's one. I just keep on making the same bad decisions. Or, I've changed jobs 3 or 4 times, but I'm having the same problems over and over again. It's not me. It's my boss or my colleagues. But it just keeps repeating. Or you got the other one, which I think is really familiar. I keep attracting the same sort of partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, or friends. And they're just not right for me. Things just don't seem to work out. I want to do something. I really want to do it. But, I'm just not ready yet. When I've got this done or when I'm not quite so frightened, when I've learned so much, when I'm more confident, you fill in the blank. Does that sound familiar to you? It did to me when I was writing my notes because, not all of them, but I can remember back in different times of my life when those similar things happened to me. Now, why was that? Or why is that? Why is that happening right now? Well, I overheard somebody talk about that things like Facebook, you can filter out what you want to see. Same on YouTube. You can filter out the results that you want. Because if you don't, it goes on your bias. So all you get is everything that you're biased to. And that's what's happening here, isn't it? Because of something inside you, you're making those same decisions. Either decisions based on old criteria, not the criteria that you want. In some ways, you've got a set of filters, and the filters aren't producing what you want. And that's for a positive intention, I know, from your unconscious mind. But let's think about this. In real life, we have an unconscious process of filtering. And in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, we call it the NLP model of communication. Basically, events happen, and we take on that experience through our senses. You have a visual sense, an auditory, listening, kinesthetic, a feeling, olfactory and gustatory, taste and smell, or smell and taste. And we also then have another set of filters. So as we take in that event with our senses, we have a set of filters, which are our values, our beliefs, our experiences, our personal traits and things like that. And even then, those particular filters are also filtered with deletions, distortions, and generalizations to try to make sense of that blooming event that's happening. So you've got all these events. So if you've got, and we all have, beliefs and values, which are our own experiences from the past, then we are going to view the world differently, and we're going to make decisions based on those. So we don't see reality as the next person because their set of filters and what they're deleting, distorting, and generalizing with, and their beliefs and values and experiences of the world and everything else that goes with it, well, we're going to make a different decision, aren't we? For the best of intentions based on those. Now, the thing is, what I was thinking of, because when I was listening to someone talk about this, they didn't really they explained a little bit about, wouldn't it be nice if we could change those filters? Well, you blooming well can. And that's the thing. They didn't go on to that. But I think understanding first what is actually happening to us, this communication model, the way we're filtering reality on the outside and making it our subjective reality. because it's objective based on those values, beliefs, experiences, and things like that. So there's a few things that we could do, because if this is really happening to you on a major scale, so maybe you are attracting the wrong sort of people for a relationship, and we want to have a wonderful relationship, we want a loving relationship, a sharing relationship, then we need to be able to change. We want a circle of friends around us that are going to inspire us, they're going to support us. If we're going to a job, a career, we want something that's going to motivate us to excel, and so we can then reap the benefits of that. And if we're going to keep making bad decisions, we want to be able to change those decisions. We have to have a proper filtering system, a thought process, and then get our unconscious mind to start doing it as if it's a habit, because we've already got it anyway. So it's a matter of changing the habit that we've already got. So what can we do about this? Well, the thing about this is, if it is, if you're experiencing one of those types of problems and it is really, really needs sorting out pretty quickly, and it is bringing you down, or it's causing you, some more major emotional problems, then I really do think one-to-one therapy is the way forward. And don't think of it as therapy, because therapy is I don't know what, that word seems, I've got to have therapy, therefore I'm broken. No, you're not broken. We're just not using the skills and resources that we have inside us to what we want now. We're working on an old model, as it were, old processes based on our experiences of the past, beliefs of the past. So we need to be able to change them. And if you find a really good therapist, you can do them anywhere. I always say, I would always recommend somebody with NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnosis as their major backgrounds. But that's only because that's the way I was trained, and that's the way I train people, and that's the way I work. So that's my preference, but there's great therapists all over the place. So I would recommend that. And you don't have to have someone close by. I do a lot of work on Skype and Zoom. So I'm seeing people in different countries, literally seeing them, working with them. We're hypnotizing across the internet vibes, things like that. So you can find a therapist. That's the easy part. But also, if you just say, actually, it's not that bad, but it needs changing. If nothing else, I think this is a great thing to do, because we can always get better. So if I make good decisions, I can make better decisions. And if I make better decisions, I can make even better decisions. If I'm in my career, I can do even better at my career because of the decisions I make in that, and actually see maybe new pathways, new opportunities. If it's in a relationship, you can make that relationship even better by understanding your filters. You can be with your friends at a deeper level by just changing those filters. So it doesn't matter whether you've got a real emotional downside of this or whether things are okay. You can always make everything better. It just means if you are suffering a little bit on the negative side, the negative emotions with this, then you will change in leaps and bounds. If you're doing pretty good, then you're going to make little tweaks. But little tweaks make a huge difference. Massive differences. Sometimes it's the smallest change that can have the biggest effects. And here that we look for return on investment. What's the smallest thing I can do that gets the greatest change? Or what's going to make the most change out of all the things I can do? What's the one thing that will change everything? So that's what I suggest. But let's assume that we're doing okay. I mean, even if you have got a problem, these are the things I'm going to go through now. You can do anyway, because it's going to help. It's going to help your awareness of what's happening. Now, I think the first thing to do, and this seems really a touch of the bleeding obvious, is recognize it as an issue. Because sometimes it's easy just to push it to the back, not to admit it to ourselves. And, even when you're not admitting it to yourselves, that that's what's happening. So you might as well be clean and get, bring this out. If you've got a little journal, write it down, because I always like to write things down. One thing, I can always come back to it. So if I get interrupted and my mind goes elsewhere, I can come back to it. At any time, we can always come back to things. But the other thing, by writing it down, it does a number of things. You have an internal voice when you're writing, by hand, by the way. I don't like typing. Can be done, but it's better to do it by hand because you're using your internal voice for the words you're thinking, and then you're using your muscles and your muscle memory to move that pen across the page. You're actually setting an intention to notice this problem and bring it into your conscious awareness. So I'd always say, write it in your Jenny journal, because then we can make more notes about it. We can come back to it. We can, every time you get an aha moment or a bit of intuitive information from your unconscious mind, we can go back to that page and add to it. And suddenly you'll see things differently. Even just putting it down for an evening, coming back, you will see things what you didn't see before, because you'll have changed overnight. Your filters will have started to change. So that's the first thing. Bring this to your conscious awareness. And then, you see, that's the now, isn't it? This is what we're experiencing right now. But that's okay. Here where we are. But how do I want to be? How do I want to be instead of what I'm experiencing right now? So what type of decisions do I want to make? What's the result of those decisions? What is the goal of making those decisions? If it's about career, what do I really want for me in a career? What are the things that are most important to me? And we're going to go into important things really soon. If it's in a relationship, how do I want this relationship to be? If I'm not in a relationship, what is my perfect relationship? What would I aim for? What would it be like if I was in this relationship right now? So if we were to use our imagineering and go into the future, and it doesn't have to be a long way, just forget the now and realize, if I was in the most perfect relationship, what would it be like? What are the things that would make me feel this is just right? And what would that allow me to do? Because it's allowing you to do things, to experience things. If it's a series of friends, just imagine, what would those friends be like? What are their values? What are their traits? What would they allow you to do? How would they support you? How would they encourage you? How would they motivate you? How would they hold you to account? How would you be around them? What would you learn from them? Man, there's loads of stuff in this. That's all we need. If you want to do something and you haven't started yet, you're procrastinating, imagine doing it and even getting the result. What would that enable you to do? How would you feel when you're doing it? Would it be confidence? Would it be high self-esteem? Would it be grounded? Would it be inner strength? You're the only person who knows. So again, this is why it's on paper, because when we start doing it, you will motivate and stimulate yourself. And then as you look at those, I really like to look at the values contained within those things that you want. So just look and ask yourself, why is this important to me? And maybe just on the other side of the page, just write, why is this important to me? And write down the first thing that comes into your mind. Don't use your conscious mind. This is quick. So what's the first thing that comes into your mind? And then just ask yourself, and why is that important to me? And again, without evaluation, without editing, write the next answer down. And then say, why is that important to me? And you're going to keep doing that with all the things that you feel you're going to be getting from those new ways of being. These are the values that you're heading towards. These are going to be your motivation, or the motivation that gets you to change and to be the way you want and get the results you want. But the thing is, as you look at that, and we've talked about values before, just notice, are they toward more richness, a better life, to what you want? Or are they going away from something that you don't want? So it could be, I want a better job. I want to change careers because it will help me gain more money. I'll get paid more. And why is that important to you? Well, it means I won't have to worry about bills anymore. Well, that's an away from you, because the only distance you'll ever go is enough to cover those bills. And what we want is, because it'll allow me richness, it'll allow me to do this, it'll allow me to experience life. If it's a relationship, because it will give me security. Well, that seems really positive, but does that mean you're going away from insecurity? Whereas it should be, not should, it could well be, because I want a deeper love, a deeper, more meaningful relationship with one particular person, maybe, that's going to allow me to show myself at my true potential. These are now going towards something which is rich and great. So just notice that, because if you're noticing they're all going towards something, then we're on the right track. But I would suggest, because these are issues, there'll be some away froms. So when you find those away froms, and I'm sure they'll be there, they're the type of things that we're going to look for, because they're the things that are probably one of the core ingredients of the issue, the problem we have at the moment. Why we're not moving on to these wonderful goals. And you see, when you do that, when you notice those away froms, you'll notice a negative feeling, because an away from is going to have a negative feeling. It's a big generalization, but I think it'll generally have a negative feeling. And as you feel it, could you put a label on it? You don't have to. You can call it anything you like. You can call it a name, Fred, Frida. And if you're a Fred or a Frida, I didn't mean to do that, but just a name, just so you can always come back to it because you'll remember it. Or if you think, this is fear, this is anxiety, this is unconfidence, whatever it is. Now you're starting to get a little deeper into this issue, but also in the more speed of change. Because when you notice that feeling, and here's the thing with rapid change now, when you notice that feeling that's attached to the issue, just say to yourself, what belief do I have about this feeling that makes this negative feeling so? And you'll come up with something like, I'm not, or I can't. And write it down without editing again, without thinking. Sometimes you may have to do it a couple of times, have a little break, cup of coffee, bit of fresh air, come back, get into that feeling again, and do it until you can get away from your conscious mind and what you've been thinking about, and let the unconscious belief come through. Because now we've got the belief, the negative belief, the limiting decision that you've made that is stopping you. Now it's stopping you for a wonderful intention, or the intention was absolutely brilliant. Well, the intention is always brilliant, but way back then, your unconscious mind is the only thing it could do with the experience that you had, the wisdom that you had way back then, could come up with this negative limiting decision to help maybe protect you, to pull you away from something harmful, those type of things. So the intention is always positive. But the limiting belief and that emotion came about way back. And therefore, now we're getting to the home run, or the last thing. Because now we can look at, okay, now I understand the intention. Because when you look at it, even consciously by now, you can start to understand what is the intention. Now, if you're having a bit of a problem with that, here's a couple of things we can do. One is just ask yourself, well, if I did know, this is so simple. If I did know the answer, what would the intention be? Now, that seems such a silly question. But sometimes when you say that, if I did know, what would that intention be? What is the positive intention? What are you trying to do for me? And it'll spring into your head. And then just check it. Oh, I see now. You're trying to keep me protected, or you're trying to keep me away from harm, or you're trying to stay me being embarrassed, or, stopping me doing something because of a reason. Now we're there because we can then change the behaviors and beliefs to get that intention, because we always want that intention. We just want to get it a better way. But if you don't get it, my hypnosis tracks, I just remembered this, back in I don't know how long ago, I did a hypnosis track for understanding your intentions. So there you go. You just got to find that hypnosis track, have a listen to that, Notice what comes up. So now we can find the intention. So now what we're going to say to ourselves, well, now I understand this. How can I get this a better way? Maybe what's the counter examples of this belief that no longer make it so? Because now when I look through my life, I'm experienced maybe. I can do what I want. Here's a real quick story. It's just come to my mind. Quite some time ago. I don't know if I said this story before, but I worked with a young lady, and she was brilliant at her job, and she knew it, and she wanted to be recognized for how good she was. But the thing was, she wasn't being recognized. She wasn't being accepted. And me being me said, oh, what we're really talking about is the glass ceiling for women in work, and things like that. And we're going to have to use our She said, no, Paul. It's not that difficult. She says, the problem I've got is I blush like hell. I beam when people talk to me and ask me a question. I go so red, so uncomfortable, and then they get uncomfortable. She said, I am really good at my job, but here's the thing. They won't even let me come into meetings and take minutes of meetings. And I could wipe the floor with everyone in that room with what I know, how good I am. But they just won't let me be there. They won't even ask me to do the minutes, because when they ask me, where are we up to? What did I just say? I start to blush again. And they get embarrassed. I get embarrassed. So, but I really want to be recognized. And as we were talking and doing the type of questions that I ask, which are quite weird sometimes, but it's as if when we've got a real connection with our unconscious mind, it was a memory came. And she said, I don't know what it is, Paul, but I've had this little memory keep popping into my head over the last 10 minutes of us talking. I didn't say anything about it, but it keeps coming up as if it won't go away. So usual. I said, well, what's the memory? Because it's like unconscious, this is. Well, she said, I haven't thought about this actually, I'd forgotten about it. But she said it was my 4th birthday party, and no one was taking any notice of me. And I can remember then beginning to blush, and people started to take notice of me and coming around me and looking after me and things like that. So then I was being recognized, being looked after and looked at, and really being part of things. So I said, well, that's what you want, isn't it? To be recognized, to be part of things. And she said, yeah, but not in that way. I want it for being as good with all my experiences. And it was as if the light switch went on, the switches all started clinking in her head, and the unconscious mind said, come on, Paul, quick hypnosis, let's get it done. Because it was just, I still want that intention. I still want to be recognized. I still want to be part of this. I still want that good feeling. But for my skills that I have now, and it took, 10 minutes, and her career never looked back. She absolutely hit it out the park. And you can see now the intention was absolutely brilliant. You just got to get it another way. So that's what you can do. You start saying to yourself, well, how could I get this other way? But just remember, this limiting belief that you've established now has got that wonderful intention, which we're going to ask, how can we get this another way? But we've also, if we have this limiting belief, and we can look at counterexamples, and sometimes that really works. But I do love the hypnosis side of it. And if you go back to hashtag 4.1, guess what? There's a hypnosis track there which says, changing and letting go of beliefs. Boom. Then, when we've let go of that limiting belief, we've created a void in our unconscious mind that can now allow that most empowering, positive, healthy belief to come forward to support you. Then you'll find, this is what tends to happen, when you look at the way you want to be again, that may change. But when you start to say to yourself, and you ask yourself, so new page, why is this important to me? You'll get another set of values. And when you check those values, so why is that important to me? Why is that important to me? And why is that important to me? When you check the answers, you'll find they're all towards your goal, because you've done some cleansing, as it were, of the old limiting belief to have an empowering belief with keeping the intention, because that's where a lot of people go wrong. They try to ignore the intention, and your unconscious mind is going to say, no. The intention stays. And we want that intention. And it's as if serendipity happens, coincidence happens. It's as if your life changes just like that. And the thing is, and this is what happens with most of my clients, is they tend to forget what the problem was, which is quite weird because they've been suffering it for some considerable time. But once they get back into this new way of being, the way they want to be, and the new experiences are happening, the new good feelings that are happening, it's as if, well, the problem didn't exist because now this is the way I am. And guess what's happening now? Going full circle, we're now we've changed those filters of our unconscious mind. So yeah, something happens. We take it through our 5 senses. Remember, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. So it's seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling and taste. Then we've got our filters of our beliefs and values. They've changed, haven't they? So things have got to be different. So when we generalize, distort and delete, we're actually doing it in a positive way to see more opportunities and deleting the stuff that we don't no longer need. We're generalizing good things into the way we want to be in life. And therefore it starts to grow and those filters get even better. So that's the thing. We can do what Facebook does, that YouTube does, that Google does. We can filter and set our filters and then let our unconscious mind do the work to find even better stuff. So it's like just pressing return once we've done this and saying to our unconscious mind, go ahead, make my life richer, make my life so wonderful so I can enjoy every heartbeat. I can have more fun than I can stand. And you know what? Then you'll start being the change you want to be in the world. You'll also start being the change you would like to see in other people. You'll then be setting the vibrations of change going, or the ripples of change, going further and wider than you can ever see. If you believe in the law of attraction, you're now vibrating at a different frequency, attracting everything. If you don't believe in the law of attraction, it means your reticulating, activating system, because of those filters, you're now seeing all the things that match this new way of being, this positive way of being. It just gets better and better. And then you can share it, because I always love sharing. Do you remember that sharing? Share what you know. If you've got something out of this, and I just really hope you got so much out of this, share it with somebody and let them make their great decisions, make their great careers, attracting the right partnerships. Or even if you're in a relationship and you know it's the right relationship, but it's not quite going right, hey, this is the thing to help change it, because it will. If you've got those projects and those ideas, they're going to come quicker, faster, they're going to be more positive, and you'll have the resources, so you will be ready. You'll be confident. You'll be strong. You'll be curious. You'll be intuitive. Because that's what's happened. Anyway, I really hope you do just get all of that. So, another final so. If you have, please do share. Please do share this podcast and the actual Personal Development Unplugged set of podcasts, if you would, because that would be absolutely awesome. So we can grow this, unplugged personal development community into something that is just going to keep going. And as I always say, if you could just subscribe to the platform you get this podcast on, so it comes to you on a Wednesday and a Saturday without even raising a finger. You turn it on, update, boom, I'm here in your ears. And if you could leave a review, that would be awesome. I know it takes time and it's, really, Paul? Yes, I'll do it. And then I never do. I know I have that problem with the podcast I listen to. But then I took time. I thought, I'm just going to do it. And it didn't take that long. Once you're in it, you're in it. And it's nice to do. And that makes you feel good too. And it helps grow this little community of ours. And it's great to be part of this community. And also, as I always say, if you want those hypnosis tracks, just go to paulcloughonline.com/podcast. There's 35. I'm going to send a list. I've been doing a list of those so people can find them easy, the ones they want. And that's how I found the 4.1 so quickly. So that's coming out on an email. There's going to be 1 or 2 more free gifts coming out. And I've got 1 or 2 hypnosis tracks that I want to add there anyway. So whether I'm talking about it or just at it, I don't know. So that should be really great. And I'm thinking just of late, I'm very conscious that to keep this Unplugged podcast alive, in not that it's dying, it's getting bigger as we speak, but to keep it alive, keep it fresh, that's a better word to say, keeping things fresh, because things have always got to be fresh. I've listened to one or two podcasts and they seem to be getting a little bit staid in the way they produce things, and I don't want to be that. I want to be fresh, I want to be different. So if there's any way that you think that this could be freshened up, could be made more alive, could be more appealing, more in depth maybe, more searching, I don't know. I'm thinking about these things so I can do it myself. But if there is anything like that you'd like to hear or give me some advice or feedback, that would be great. The email address is feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. That comes straight to my little inbox. Okay. And I'd love to hear from you. And if I did mention it online, it's totally anonymous. Okay. And your email is always safe with me. But it's a great way to start really getting involved, being part of this, wave of change. Because it's like that little butterfly on the other side of the world. We're going to be flapping our wings and create a wave and a storm of change and make a difference in this world. There you go. Have more fun than you can stand. And I don't know who said it, but let's leave everyone and everything that we meet in this world in a better place than when we first met them. Enjoy. This is Paul. Speak to you again soon. Bye-bye now.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.